So I'm gonna be translating, я буду переводить. Мы начнем с немного истории жизни Алекса, о том, как он пришел к путешествиям, почему он начал свою журналистскую деятельность.
Tell us about what was your life before traveling and like it's average life of average person. What it was like? Я спрошу о том, да, какая у него была жизнь до путешествий.
First of all, thank you for having me. Sorry for not speaking Russian. I always like to learn the local language, but Russian is very complicated.
Спасибо за то, что меня пригласили в первую очередь. Мне очень приятно, и хотелось бы, конечно, говорить по-русски, но это слишком сложный язык. Простите за то, что говорю по-английски.
At least I'm learning to read Cyrillic.
Да, по крайней мере, он учится читать кириллицу, и у него, кстати, неплохо получается. Так что можете сидеть со своими именами, может быть, что-нибудь прочтет.
Like I said, my name is Alex. I come from Oslo, the capital in Norway, where both my mother and father come from the same city. I have one brother, which is 6 years younger than me, and two sisters, which are also much younger. And they are all in the normal life. They are married and having kids and living the more normal life that you live in all around the world. And I also had a very normal job. I used to work with a big hotel chain. I worked with restaurants and bars and hotels for more than 10 years, which is also my education. So I used to work with tourism in Norway, and I also worked in other countries with hotels and this kind of profession, with service industry. But the same like you feel in Murmansk, sometimes the city is a bit small, and it's the same. Oslo is very small, it's the same size like Murmansk. So for me the city was a bit too small, so I always wanted to travel. So I had the same job for 10 years, and I decided I wanted to do something else. I was very lucky, I already had one car. I had been saving money for a long time to buy a car. But I sold the car, and together with two friends we went to Croatia, to Zagreb, and bought a used old sailboat. But Croatia is very affordable. It's much more affordable than Norway, which is very expensive. So we bought a boat. The boat was 12 meter. That is like from this seat and to the back wall. It's quite small. You can imagine to live on this boat for a very small period. It's like having the car and you live inside. You cannot go anywhere because it's only water. But it was 3 people that we bought the boat together, and we started sailing. So we started sailing Croatia over to Italy and over to France and Spain, and then suddenly we were out in the Atlantic Ocean. And from the Atlantic we went over to the Caribbean, to America, and then we went through the Panama Canal and out in the Pacific Ocean. It is the biggest ocean in the world. It's 2 times the size of Russia. And then we sailed across the Pacific Ocean. We came to Australia, and then after Australia we continued and went to Asia. In Hong Kong we sold the boat again, and we were very lucky, for when we sold the boat in Hong Kong we sold it for more money than we paid for it in Croatia. What I learned, my experience from this trip, was that you don't need to have a lot of money to travel long distances. By sailing you don't pay for petrol, no diesel, and also you sleep on the boat. You don't pay for a hotel. If you are hungry, you are fishing, so you don't pay for the restaurants and the food. So it's very affordable. You use only the wind. You travel where you want, and you don't really have any costs. You travel for almost free. It was a very liberating feeling. So only to sail across the Pacific Ocean it takes almost 1 year. It's very long. Sometimes we were in the middle of the ocean and we had not seen land for 1 month. And again, we are only on this small boat, so we can only walk like 6 meters and 2 meters. There is nowhere to hide. You're very together on a very small space. And this journey, it took 2.5 years. I was on this sailing boat and sailing. I went to Hong Kong, we sold the boat, and I went back home to Norway. And I tried to go back to my old job. But it was very difficult to sit inside the small office in front of the computer when my mind was already out there in the boat. So I quit my job and I started walking. So I walked down to Germany and down to France and through all of Spain and I walked all the way to Portugal, which is again at the Atlantic Ocean, from Oslo. Again, you don't need to have a lot of money to travel. If you want to go to Teriberka, if you leave now, you will be there tomorrow night. Easy. You bring maybe a backpack, maybe a tent or a sleeping bag, and you go. You can go to Oslo, you can go to Finland. It's easy. You don't need a big budget to travel a bit. And you get good stories, you see a lot of things, you think more than you do home, and your world gets smaller. To walk from Oslo to Portugal, it only took 2 months. Very easy. It's very popular, something called pilgrimage. I don't know if you have...
What is that?
Pilgrimage is traveling to a special place, a secret place. Many churches, in the old days people went from the different churches. So you had these routes, the path along the churches. Mm-hmm. And you still have this. So when you walk in, I don't know if you have in Russia, but at least in Finland you have it. All of Finland, all of Sweden, all of Norway, Germany, France, Spain. You can walk and you can sleep in the churches. The churches will have a bed for you, and it's for free. Yeah? And very often they will serve you meals, and you pay almost nothing. Maybe you pay 10 or 20 ruble and you can get a good meal, which is... it's an old tradition that is still open today. There is anyway a lot of rivers in Russia also, especially in the west part. And maybe it's possible to get a small boat and you can start paddling and you can go to Italy. Yeah? See possibilities and not limitations. Not to be afraid, but to open, and why not? So I was very lucky. I already been in Russia a few times. I traveled from Murmansk to Vladivostok and from Moscow to Beijing with Trans-Siberian Railway. So I already did 2 times. So I had seen the lengths of Russia, and it's very long. So this time I wanted to go from the northern part, from Teriberka, and all the way down to Turkey. And I start by Google. I go on internet or Yandex or whatever, and I search on internet. I find good people who can help me to meet you, who can help me to meet the city and to learn wherever I go. And I have different people I meet in different cities. And this is my way of getting in contact with local people. And I don't know where I'm going. The trip, it was not planned. I started in Oslo and I was driving because the road in Norway is much worse than in Russia. It's really, really bad. So I was driving through Finland all the way up to Kirkenes. And I don't know where I'm going. I know I will go to Moscow. I will go to Peter and Moscow. And after, I don't know. But maybe Ukraine, maybe Turkey, and after I will go back home to North Europe again. I was driving through Finland all the way up to the northern part of Norway. And when I came to the border, it was the officer, the police and the customs, they were stopping me. And they asked me where I was going. And I said, I don't know. And they did not like my answer. So they asked me again, where are you going? And I said, Turkey. And she looked at me like I was stupid, because why would I go up to Norway when I was going to Turkey? So they told me to go out of the car. I had to sit in the police station for almost 3 hours. They would not let me come into Norway, even if I have the Norwegian passport. So when I was crossing the border to Russia, I said I was going to Murmansk. I did not mention Turkey. But again, it just tells that people don't like when you think outside the box. These people I met at the border, they did not think it was possible. They didn't see the possibility. They didn't know it was possible. And it's the same if you are walking or driving or sailing. There is no limits. Of course, you need the passport and the document, but it's just about letting it go, not having these limitations. It always has a cost. Nothing is for free. You can travel and you can do whatever you want. But my parents, my mother, my father, my brother, my friends, of course, they don't like my lifestyle. And everybody around me, they want me to settle down, get married and have baby and go to the office and have a normal life. But for me, I am trying to combine it. I'm trying to do both. So now I don't travel for so long. I travel for maybe 1 month, or maybe 2, or maybe 3, but then I stay home for maybe 1 month, or maybe 2 months before I go out again. So I try to combine it. And it's a different life, and you have to take the consequence if you choose a different life. For me, it's impossible to have a girlfriend. For me, it's impossible, like I live now, to have kids. I don't see my family and my friends so often. I don't go to anniversaries if somebody have the birthday or if somebody has a wedding. I'm not home, huh? I'm traveling. And my grandfather, he's 94 years old, he's still alive. He's the only one encouraging me and telling me to go. The rest are telling me, relax. Think of when you are old. You have to plan for when you get old. I don't want to plan when I get old. I want to live now. So if you are willing to pay the price, to sacrifice, because there is always a sacrifice. If you have a family, maybe you sacrifice the travel. If you travel, maybe you sacrifice the family. But it's possible. Whatever you want to do is possible. You decide. I lived like this for 10 years now. I've been traveling all the time. And I don't want to change. I have a fantastic life. I have friends all around the world. I'm making new friends wherever I go. And it's the best life for me. And it's many ways of making it work. Of course, you can backpack. You can go for a walk for 1 month, or you can go sailing, or you can go camping, whatever you like. But someday you need to find a job, huh, if you want to live a different life. And many young people, they choose to work very hard for 6 months or for 1 year and only eat noodle, and after they go traveling. But for me now, I work for a magazine. I work for a publishing house. So I'm making travel guides, I do writing, and I do photo. So I do articles for newspapers and magazines. I do updates for Lonely Planet and all of these travel guides, which is possible. You cannot buy a big house, you cannot feed a big family, but it's possible to live from this. I also work for Red Cross and Doctor Without Borders. And that means I will go on projects to, if there is Ebola in Africa, or if there is an earthquake in Nepal, or if there is a hunger strike in Yemen, we will go to help out and make an effort in these areas for these organizations. And again, you don't make good money, but you get to travel places nobody else can see. So I have been all over the Himalayas. I have been really in the deep jungle in Africa, and I really get to go places that most people don't want to go to, but I want to go there. And also a new trend now for many young people, it's doing online work. Of course, everybody have the smartphone and work digital. There is also a service called Upwork. It's an app you can download, or you can have it on your computer, where you can find jobs you can do on the phone. And it can be anything. It can be programming, it can be translation, it can be, hundreds of different possibilities that anybody can do all around the world. You can be home, you can be in the jungle, you just need your smartphone and you can work, and it's possible to make money from this. So when I come to places, typical these backpacker places in Thailand, you have many people from 15-year-old to 50 years old. And everybody is with the laptop or with the phone, and they are sitting there on the beach in Thailand, and they are working. And they actually make it work. So it's, if you want to, it's possible. The most important is to find what you like to do and do more of it. Whatever it is. Whatever you like to do, make it work so you can do more of it.
So how do you think, I guess for young people, and I remember myself, the hardest part is to know what it is. How to find what would you like, because there are so many things and so many noises, so many voices. Yes.
What gives you peace in mind? What makes you relax? When are you happy? What do you really like to do? Do you like cooking? Do you like traveling? Do you like sport? Do you like computer? Do you like camera? It's and you don't have to decide. You don't have to decide. Bill Gates, he was 35 before he started making good money. A lot of people are in their 30s, in their 40s. You don't have to decide now. Relax. Of course, study is good, huh? University is good. Study is good. Education is good. Language. It's important, huh? But don't stress. There is a very big trend now in Spain. You have seen, I mean, a lot of things are changing all around the world. And before, everybody wanted to move to the big cities to get a career. But this is changing now. You see it in Tokyo, in Japan, and you see it in Spain especially, which is very urban areas. And you see young people in these cities now, they are moving out of the city. They don't want the stress. They don't want to chase the career anymore. They want a happy life. They want to be painting. They want to dig in the ground and make potatoes or vegetables. They want to do what they like, what makes them happy. But again, it has a price. Maybe you will have no sauce for your potatoes. Huh? Maybe you only will eat potatoes for 2 years. Maybe you will not have a new jacket. Maybe you will not have new shoes. But again, what is important for you? What is the most important?
Спасибо Алексу. Thanks for your speech. Есть ли какие-нибудь вопросы? Any questions? Yeah.
Hi Alex.
Hello.
Is it true that you visited 130 countries?
Yes.
What do you feel after this? After visiting so many countries, what do you feel?
А о чем была предыдущая речь?
I'm very lucky. I am very lucky that I can see all this. But I think if everybody have seen the same things I have seen, people would not care about career or politics or it's fantastic. The world is really, really, really beautiful. I mean, just now in Teriberka, you get peace in mind. It's so peaceful. It's so beautiful. This is important. The Murmansk mall is very nice. It's a very nice shopping mall. But it's not about life, huh? Teriberka is about life. These values just changes, I think.
It's like traveling open our minds.
Yes, very much.
So,
maybe you will share with us the most memorable places, just to name them. Some countries,
Teriberka,
places,
самые запоминающиеся места просит назвать девушка. Самые яркие из
I
путешествий.
think the most important is places that keep the culture. I think culture is important because it makes you belong.
Can you just name them? Exactly, name them.
Он хотел обобщить и сказать, что важно быть в местах, где сохраняется культурное наследие.
Have impressed you most of all?
Corsica.
Corsica.
Kos. It's a small place, small island outside France, which has a very strong culture. It's incredibly strong. It has this resilience that it's totally different from France. It's just a very unique place. You have some islands, Aeoli Islands, also in the Mediterranean, where you have live volcanoes, huge volcanoes with the lava flowing up, and it's accessible. I mean, even here you have in the east, you have fantastic landscapes toward Vladivostok. You have active volcanoes. You have a beautiful landscape, and I mean it's in your own country. Teriberka is such a unique place. You have the festival now. Only in 2 months, 1 month, you have a festival up there. Huh? You should go.
They don't know. They have no idea. You know
should
more.
walk to the festival in Teriberka. It's this summer. Fantastic festival. People from all around the world are coming. But it's also, for me, I like isolation. When places are isolated, they have kept traditions much better. So when I was sailing in the Pacific, many of the small islands we came to, they only had populations of maybe 30 people. Some places, they hadn't had visitors for 10 years. When we came, they hadn't seen other people for 10 years. We were the first one for 10 years.
Oh,
And it's these places, they really keep the culture in a unique way.
тоже
And we have a very special culture in this area, the Sami people, that are in general in Norway, Sweden, Finland and Russia. A unique people that actually are, they don't need a passport, huh? They can travel for free. Russia, Finland, Norway, Sweden. They can travel for free in this area. And they have a very unique culture. Music, the way of life, and sometimes we forget this, huh? And it's very strong. It's like in the Aborigines in Australia. Same kind of cultures. But what is important is not my life. You don't want my life. You want your own life. Huh? You need to find what is special for you. I really like nature. Other people, they only like big cities. Really the urban life, the modern life. Huh? So it really depends on what you enjoy, what you like again. Because even if I find something beautiful, maybe you don't. So it's personal.
Have you ever been sick in your journey?
Yes.
How many times?
But never very serious. I had dengue fever, but it was scary. During the Ebola, my friend, she was the Norwegian that got Ebola. That was scary.
That's not serious for you.
Yes, but I'm not afraid.
You're not afraid.
No. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Quite dangerous.
Many people tell me Russia is dangerous. I'm not afraid. But only one thing that almost killed me once, that was very dangerous, it was a mosquito. One mosquito. I had one sting of a mosquito on my leg, but I was on an island. And I was there for 3 months without hospital, without medicine, without anything. And there I got infection, and it was very, very bad. So in the end,
I actually meant this because you said that you don't have to think about these things, it's all affordable and whatever. But I mean that many of Russian people, most of Russian people are afraid of going somewhere because they're afraid of these situations with insurance, with some troubles, health troubles. You're lucky.
it's the price to pay. It's the price to pay. But I learned I always have antibiotic with me. I always have antibiotic, and I always have what I need to take care of myself. And this is from the sailing.
There's any specific things that people scare about Murmansk or Russia in general, but just...
I think Murmansk have a difficult reputation because of all the military action. Because you have had so much military activity, it has all the military bases, and also Norway has had all the military bases. Finland, Sweden, you have had all the exercises with the American soldiers. We just have had this big military presence in this north area. And also I think a lot of, I know from 20 years ago, that a lot of the military, they used to come to Murmansk for drink too much beer because it was more cheaper than in Norway. Huh? So things like this, it creates stories, but it's not true. Huh? It's not like this. It's a complete different city. I mean, I'm very impressed. It's very nice to be here, and this is kind of my job, and this is why I find it so good to do what I do, because I can now make my story. I can tell people, no, this is not Murmansk, this is Murmansk. And I will show them what it is. And it's the same what I do when I travel. But it's also complicated because people have this story about all the pollution in Russia, that they're using all the coal, all the charcoal, for the burning, for the making electricity.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
And then they say, oh, you must not pollute. Well, then they are using the my father. I was on the Lenin, the boat, the nuclear boat. And I sent a photo, and I said, I'm having a nuclear morning in Murmansk. And he said, oh, no, be careful, be careful in Russia. And I had to reply back, and I said, but Russia has never misused nuclear power. Only America has misused nuclear power. Russia has only used it for energy. Yes, they have weapon also, but it's for an energy purpose. Huh? It's not necessarily for war like the Americans. So it's all these misconceptions. And maybe Russia has been a bit closed, and America has been more open. Russia is still a bit closed. Huh? It was complicated for me to have the permit to drive free around and do whatever I want. The Russian government don't like this. Huh? They like things to be in control. You can come and go there to there. They don't like to travel freely. Huh? So they still have this. It's more regulated, I think. And then people get wondering why is it regulated. Last summer I was in Iran. And my father was really afraid. He was really scared. But Iran is the safest place in the world for a tourist. They have never had incidents with tourists. There is no criminality in Iran because it's so strict with the laws. Huh? So as a tourist, it's very safe. But again, you are growing up in a different world. The world that is happening now is very different from the world 20 years ago, huh? Because now everybody have the smartphone. I mean, all around the world. If you go to China, you go to Myanmar, you go to Vietnam, you go to Russia, you go to America, you go to Canada, you go, wherever you go, everybody have the phone, huh? And we have the same apps. We use the same app. We use Google, we use Yandex, we have the same information. And like you told me, when you check news, don't only check one newspaper. Check 3 different newspapers so you can get all the angles. Because you know one newspaper is only telling one side of the story. Check 2 more and you will have 3 sides of the story and you can make your own mind. Information is now so available, so we have no reason to be afraid. I cut my finger and I was using Google to find how I could stitch it. Huh? Easy. So it's nothing to be afraid of.
Нечего бояться. No fear.
No fear.
Ну что, давайте поблагодарим нашего гостя, потому что, мне кажется, мы уже сами немножко устали. И если есть личные вопросы, наверное, это после беседы тогда уже подойдем. Давайте сделаем большие, громкие аплодисменты. Спасибо большое. Thanks, Alex, for coming.
I have to say one more thing before you go. And I will not recommend you to choose my life. Because it's complicated, huh? It's difficult. My ex-girlfriend always tell me, you really choose a difficult way. And yes, I did. So it's not the easy way. The easy way is to be at home, have a baby, get married, have a normal job. That's the easy way. Huh? And for many, this is the best. So you need to think before you decide. Huh?
Прежде чем мы закончим, Алекс хотел бы сказать, не выбирайте жизнь, как у него. Потому что она, опять же, не для всех. Его предыдущая девушка говорила, что ты выбираешь всегда самый сложный путь. Но каждый выбирает сам для себя. И, конечно, легче оставаться в своем маленьком кружке, иметь семью, иметь обычную работу. Каждый решает сам для себя. Это, наверное, самое важное.
Good luck and have an interesting life.
Удачи и хорошей жизни, интересной жизни. Let's make a photo with everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.